Hello and welcome to In Conversation with WLV Doctoral College. I'm Dr. Deborah Curitan and I'm an Associate Professor of Equity in Learning and Teaching at the Doctoral College at the University of Wolverhampton.
And I'm Ben Halligan, I'm Director of the Doctoral College.
So today's vlog, we wanted to talk about New Year's resolutions. We're recording this on the 4th of January. It's the first day back at work after the new year. And I suppose it's an apt time to start talking about a new start and a new approach to the way that we approach our work. So there were a few areas that we wanted to talk about. One was planning. We also wanted to talk about goal setting, and we also wanted to talk about how to look after yourself and keep yourself healthy and fit through your doctorate. So should we go first to the first of those, which was goal setting and planning? So Ben, any thoughts about ideas around how we might approach this in the new year?
Yeah, I think it's a good time to sit down to think, what do I want to get done over the next 12 months? And the calendar year is almost a more useful consideration than the academic year, because the calendar year contains a sense of some moments where activity on campus may not be as busy as it ordinarily is, around the breaks, around Easter, around summer, and so on. And it can be a matter of planning for those periods as well. And those periods can be quite advantageous. It may be that equipment that you need, lab, studio space, is not in as high demand. So there can be a bit of planning around that. But in terms of goals, I think it's a matter of thinking what I would like to achieve by a certain date and putting a pragmatic, realistic idea onto that. So chapter 2, I'll have that in fine draft by the 1st of May would be my goal for that point. But I also think not only goals looking forward, but goals looking backward. So if you're mired in chapter 1, then my intention would be that that is completed to fine draft by the end of January, and I don't care what anybody says, that's what I need to have done. And that all of this can be discussed with your supervisor. And you can ask for advice, for a sign-off, mutual agreement, even set the dates. So I'll agree then to get you on the 1st of February that fine draft of chapter 1, and then we can meet maybe on the 12th of February in order to get some feedback. And so to actually formalize it and get some dates into the diary, I think that gives you things to aim for, and it gives you reassurance, and it gives you structure as well in terms of then planning how you move towards hitting those particular goals.
Anybody who knows me knows how much I talk about planning and how important it is. So I think, that's really important what you're saying, Ben. And I think, the new year is a good time to review and refresh your research plan, your development plan, and your publication plans as well. So it's a good time to get those plans out and have a look at them, readjust them if you need to, and look at making them more realistic. I think sometimes one of the problems with planning is often we overplan. We try to do too much in too short a time, and that can be really have a really negative effect on us and a negative effect on our progress. So being realistic is really important with the planning. So one of my New Year's resolutions is to be more realistic in my planning and not to over plan. So we've talked a little bit about planning, but there's also we wanted to talk about goal setting as well. So what sort of approach to goal setting do you take, Ben, when it comes to the new year? Are you somebody who has one big goal, or do you have lots of small goals, or a mixture?
I think for me it's thinking about what I would like to achieve, to say by a certain date this has been done, but also being practical and pragmatic and realistic, to build in some consideration of what would happen if it's not been done by that date. So in terms of goals and achievements and planning, it's nice if X can be achieved, but if it hasn't been, not to then allow it to, for example, cut into the 2 weeks that you've nominated as a holiday for yourself at that point. So to have a contingency. So I would be ambitious in what you want to do, but I wouldn't allow the whole boat to go down if you haven't managed to achieve that, because life is always throwing unexpected things at you. So to have a bit of a contingency plan if you haven't done that one big ambitious goal.
So for me, when I talk about big goals and small goals, or a mixture of the two, I tend to like to have a big goal that I'm aiming for and some smaller goals, because it means that hitting those smaller goals and getting those smaller plans ticked off motivate me to keep going towards that bigger goal. So, you know, in terms of a doctorate, that bigger goal might be that I get 2 chapters in fine draft by the end of this year. But the smaller goal might be that I present my findings from my latest study at the annual research conference, that I write a paper for a journal about my findings or my methodology. Whether that gets published or not is neither here nor there, but the paper's there, it's been written, and it's something that can be tweaked and honed and polished at a later date. So having those smaller goals that you tick off, that are, you know, that kind of almost are emotional pats on the back for yourself, and you can say, yay, look what I've done, helps you keep going. And they're often stepping stones to that bigger goal as well, because often the smaller goals are things that attribute to that bigger goal. So if you're writing papers, you're going to be polishing your writing style, and that's going to help you when you're writing your chapters. You're also going to be looking at how you articulate the way that you talk about the work that you're doing, and that's going to help you in the flow and the articulation of the thoughts, ideas and approaches that you've taken in your work. So try and make your big goals something that are achievable, but also make some of those smaller goals something that's going to help you contribute to those bigger goals as well, but help you feel really good about the progress that you're making as you go through the year. So we've kind of touched on the next point, which is about health and well-being and looking after your health and well-being during your doctorate, and why that's important. And Ben, you said making sure that you have contingency plans in case things go wrong, so that you're not working through the 2 weeks that you've put aside for annual leave in the summer, or through Christmas or whatever. And I think it's really, really important to have boundaries, and to ensure that you don't work 70, 80 hours a week on your doctorate and burn yourself out, because it's really important to be measured in that way. So Ben, what are your thoughts?
I think that's terribly important, and I think that one thing that I think students now, undergraduates and postgraduates, often, therefore, let's say students in their 20s, are teaching us, is that there's an awful lot of benefit about constructive or creative periods of relaxation. And I think slightly older people are sometimes under what can be referred to as a Protestant work ethic, in a sense that you should be doing 9 to 5, you should be using your time constructively, you shouldn't be wasting it. But there's a lot to be said for being able to relax, to chill out, to sit back, to really not use your time in a seemingly constructive way, but to refresh yourself, to recharge your batteries, to put yourself into a better situation, so that when you begin work again on the Monday or what have you, you're actually much more up for it, much more able to deal with it. So I think in terms of planning, we really need to factor in rest time, downtime, relaxation time, both in a kind of micro level and a macro level. So thinking about the year, what am I doing over summer? Let's delineate some actual weeks when I will be on holiday, I will be do not disturb, but also, you know, thinking about this week, about that week, you know, let's put in some half days here. Let's think about the importance of maybe, you know, getting away from the campus, going for a walk, you know, things like that. So I think at all levels, you know, plan in those breaks for yourself. If you're like me, it may even motivate you, because you're not just looking at endless hours of work, but you're thinking, you know what, I'll work, but then come 2 o'clock, I'll have finished for the day and I can go and do something else.
I think those students who are in the hangout today, I actually said my New Year's resolution was to take a lunch break every day. And I think it's really important that people do that. And I talk from my own experience as a doctoral student. I didn't take holidays, and it had a really negative impact on my health and well-being, both physically and emotionally. And I think I came from that generation of academics where you were expected to work a 70 or 80 hour week, and it isn't good for you. It's not good for your health. It's not good for your well-being. And I'm now very much an advocate of the, you know, ensuring that my doctoral students are not overworking, that they are taking breaks, that they are mindful of their energy levels, and that they listen to what their body's telling them. If they're tired, then they need to take a break. I think there's some really wonderful advocates of this on social media who've been tweeting over Christmas and on Instagram as well, and saying, you know, if you are a PhD student, do not feel guilty that you're not doing your doctorate today. It is okay. And I think that is really important. I mean, let's face it, students are expected to take between 5 and 7 weeks annual leave every year. We expect that of you. So take it all. Look after yourself. We don't expect you to work an 80-hour week. We only expect you to study what is about 36 hours a week if you're a full-time student, 16 to 20 hours if you're a part-time student. That is, be boundaried. Use that time, use it wisely, and, you know, once you've done your hours, shut your computer and go and spend some time with the kids. Go for a walk, spend time with your partner, your friends, your family, whoever's important to you, and go and do the things that are important to you. Again, today I said that, you know, when I started my degree, I stopped reading for pleasure. And this Christmas was the first time I actually picked up a book and read for pleasure. And that's like 30 years, and it was blissful. So it's important that you do the things that are important to you, whether that's going for a run, you know, picking up knitting needles or a crochet hook, a book that hasn't got anything to do with your doctorate, or, you know, I don't know, a computer game that you like to play. It is equally as important to rest as it is to work. And there is the old adage is that you work hard and you play hard, and those two things should be in balance at all times. I think it's you know, it's very, very important, because I think as a PhD student, you often feel that you've not made the progress that you think you should have made by this point. You're often comparing yourself to somebody else and thinking that they've made more progress than you. That holds imposter syndromes there, saying you're not good enough and you need to work harder. And I think there are times where you have to say, I'm not listening to you. I'm going to listen to my body and look after myself. And if you do, I don't know about you, Ben, but when I relax, when I rest, things start to make more sense to me in terms of my research than when I'm stressed and when I'm focusing on a computer and trying to get the words out. The linkages, the relationships, the way, you know, the the way things link together and link to theory, link to other people's research, is just kind of starts to fall into place. And it's usually when I'm doing the washing up or I'm walking with my friend. So, you know, don't feel guilty for taking that time out. It is important, because actually it will, your brain will start to filter things and help you work, even though you're not, you shouldn't be focusing on it. I think the other thing as well is really important at this time of the year is to reflect back and look at what you have achieved, because I think we don't often look back and say, yeah, I've achieved that. And I think this is something we hear quite a lot from students when they go to their APR and they say to us, you know, I dread my APR, I hate writing the paperwork. And then at the end of it, I look at what I've done and the sheer magnitude of work I've done. And I think, I've done that. So I think this is another time of year where you need to sit back and look at everything that you've achieved and give yourself a big pat on the back for that, because you work hard through the year, and you need to celebrate your, you know, how far you've come in terms of your doctorate, how far you've come in your identity as an academic, how far you've come in your growth as a human being over this last 12 months, and to be proud of that.
Yep, I agree entirely, and I think that will be something that you can, as you say, put into your APR, your annual progress review, and list all the things that have occurred over the last 12 months. So I think keeping a tally of those achievements is terribly important, and also, you know, an uplifting, positive thing to do, to think about what seems sometimes like hard work and a bit of a slog, but when you look back and see the mountain that you've climbed, you think, well, you know, that's something.
Yeah. So our tips are to plan, to have goals, to write in some contingency time, and to have boundaries. Is there anything you'd like to add, Ben, before we close?
No, I think that covers it.
Okay, so thank you for listening, and once again, if there's anything that you want us to cover in these vlogs, please do let us know. You can put things down into the comments, and we will make sure that we cover the things that you would like us to cover. If you haven't done already, please subscribe and also press the bell, because it will tell you when we've uploaded another video, and we try to upload on a regular basis. So thanks for listening, and we'll speak to you again soon.